From the plaza to the airport, from Topeka to Jefferson City, the most important local stories you need to know about over the last 7 days, dissected in 30 minutes or less. Hello, I'm Nick Haynes. Great to have you with us again around the cozy confines of our Week in Review table. The Star's chief political correspondent, Steve Kraske, the host of Up to Date on KCUR-FM, the senior writer for The Call, Eric Wesson, KCTV5's chief investigative reporter, Stacey Cameron, and Kansas City Star reporter, columnist and blogger, Dave Helling. Is one solution to the problem of teens causing disturbances on the Country Club Plaza to extend a 9 p.m. summer curfew ordinance year-round? A proposal at City Hall to do just that led to a blunt discussion about race this week, with one city councilman, Jermaine Reed, pointing out that all of the tickets that have so far been issued by police been slapped on black teenagers.
All 34 of those tickets that were issued were black. All 34. And so I'm concerned that we will make this into a race issue, that we're targeting African-American young people in our communities.
There is, in fact, a racial issue in this city. What I argue with is the immediate and inescapable implication that because 34 tickets were issued, and they were issued to African Americans, that that's somehow nefarious or racist. Because one of the, that's the implication, that's the implication that you left.
Mr. Mayor. I didn't cut you off.
I thought you had finished.
And I wasn't going to
apologize.
cut you off, but please continue.
Go ahead. That's the implication that was left, and I think that was the implication that was meant.
Now, the argument was persuasive enough to get the council to back off passing this 9 p.m. year-round curfew. At least for now, they tabled the idea until the end of May. But is there evidence that white kids are also breaking the current curfew law and are simply not being ticketed, Eric Wesson?
Probably. It's just an interesting conversation. A duck is a duck. And you can call it a chicken, you can call it whatever but a duck. And you have some racial issues there. And for Sly or the Mayor James to say that it's not a race issue, it is a race issue, but let's not call it a race issue, is very confusing, and it eliminates the real issue there. You have white police officers on the plaza giving tickets to black youth when I know that there are white youth there past the curfew as well.
Is there any evidence, Stacey?
Oh, I haven't seen it. If the 34 tickets have been written to 34 black youth, then that's the facts of the matter. I mean, let's not forget we have an African-American mayor, an African-American chief of police who wants those officers down there, quelling any type of disturbance that we have. I agree with what Councilman Brooks says in the sense that there are people who don't feel comfortable down there. No teen should feel comfortable down there, or kid who's under the age of 12 or 13. This is an issue of parents who are allowing their children to go down there. If those are African-American children, then they should be cited. If there are white kids down there, then they should be cited as well. But there isn't any evidence that any of the disturbances at this point are being caused by anyone other than the kids who were being cited, period. Bravo to the mayor for trying to quell this and saying it's not a race issue. Don't pull the race card. And this, it's a problem, but it isn't based on black and white. It's based on kids.
Eric.
There are citations being issued to kids that are standing out in front of the movie theater waiting on their parents to come and pick them up. And because there's 2 or 3 of them, they're getting citations for that. They're not creating a disturbance. They're just standing there waiting on their parents to come and pick them up. And it's like maybe, I think one lady's ticket was at 5 minutes after 11.
It doesn't matter, though. The law says if you are a kid under the age of 18 down on the plaza or any of these entertainment districts after 9 o'clock, you're in violation of the law. The parents know this. So the parent either needs to be there before 9 to accompany their child or face the consequences, period.
Now, the question really is, though, is if there were to be a curfew year-round and at 9 p.m., would it really have an impact on fixing what has been a perennial issue that we've talked about repeatedly on this program, Dave?
I would say, Nick, a couple of things. The discussion about how the curfew is enforced suggests the problems with curfews, because what curfews do is criminalize not behavior, but just existence. If you're on the street, no matter what you're doing, you are violating the law. There are very few laws like that in our community, and yet it criminalizes people of a certain age for doing something that, say, Eric or I or any of the people around this table could do. So almost certainly will be unfairly enforced, because you can't arrest every teenager who is out past curfew everywhere in the city. In fact, the police will tell you that they can't go to every community, every neighborhood. They don't have enough police officers to do that. So there is an inherent unfairness in curfews that make it difficult for the police, which is why, frankly, the police don't like them as much as some politicians.
Steve.
You know, what's remarkable to me about this discussion is here we are again having this conversation. How many years, Nick, have you led a conversation about this exact topic here at this table, you know, in Kansas City, Missouri? Now, the good news is that there's a recognition that the problem continues and that there's going to be a move to expand summer hours at community centers, the number of community centers, the number of weekends those centers are going to be available from 8 to 12. That's a positive step. I suggest it's probably not going to be enough, and that this summer we're going to continue to have this conversation at this table.
Talking about a conversation we've had before, we're going to talk about the airport. This week, a group of Kansas City residents filed paperwork with the city clerk's office in Kansas City to start a formal challenge to the planning for a new terminal at KCI Airport. The group of 5 petitioners is seeking a referendum on what they say is an unnecessary and wasteful $1.2 billion expenditure. The city insists, though, the effort is totally invalid, as the city has not decided to move forward with a new terminal yet and only voted on a resolution to continue the planning process. So has the petition effort now been withdrawn?
Yes, because you can't have a referendum on a resolution that, under the charter, so there's a technical reason why you can't proceed with this effort, Nick. But more broadly speaking, it almost certainly won't be required going forward, because the citizens of Kansas City are going to get a vote on this one way or another. Lynn Horsley and I are working on a story for Sunday's newspaper, a long story about the politics of all the discussions out at KCI. And I think because of the way it's going to be financed, the citizens of Kansas City will have to vote. And that could touch off one of the more intense campaigns we've seen in this community on a ballot measure in many, many, many years. Primarily because, and the petition drive that didn't work shows us this, there is a huge emotional attachment currently to the airport that will make this issue unlike others that have come before voters in recent years.
So you might want to get out of bed a little earlier on Sunday morning to make sure you're securing your copy of the Kansas City Star on Sunday.
Available at the finer retail
absolutely, so you can get a hold of that copy. Stacey Cameron, though, but what does this, though, tell us? That we do have citizen petitioners so early in this process wanting to even do this.
Right, and that should give our city leaders pause in going forward, because if you start to see that type of organized opposition that early regarding a plan that could cost taxpayers upwards of $1 billion, you may want to draw back, because, as Dave said, eventually some aspect of this is going to get in the hands of the voter. And if it is not popular, you got to think it's sunk before this thing even tries to float.
Now, the backers of the project will say, well, hell, hold on. I mean, there's going to be a lot of chance for citizen input. But the petitioners in this effort say, you know, by the time that happens, it's so far in the process, you can barely do anything. You can only tinker around with the edges of these types of projects. Steve?
Well, I think there will be a chance for citizens to have some comment here, but the city has itself a real problem here, Nick. There are 3 horseshoes up at KCI. Only 1.5 of them are being used right now. The heads of the airport talk about this exorbitant expense to try to keep up the security structure at the horseshoe and a half that's being used now. And to hear Mayor Sly James tell it, the change is inevitable. He talks about the fact that people were attached to Wheeler Downtown Airport back in the day. Look how much more convenient that was, and yet at one point in time the city had to make a change to go to a different airport.
Eric.
But Kansas City isn't a hub of connecting to overseas flights or things. It's a layover, crossover area. A lot of people are calling into the newspaper saying, well, if we need something changed, just tear down the 2 that you don't want and leave them up, leave the 1 up. Because we just spent, what, $250 million renovating the terminals several years ago. So why put some more money into those terminals?
There's been some polling on this, Nick, and there is overwhelming resistance today. Now, that could change over the next couple of years. But remember, most people never use the airport. They don't really care. They're not paying that much attention. The tax will only be for the people who do use the airport, however that mechanism works. The singular problem for city officials who want this is to convince the people who never use the airport that they should vote for it. And the stumbling block there is people who don't use the airport want to know why you need to spend $1.2 billion when that money might be better spent in other ways.
But it's not going to be their money. Though. It's not coming out of their pocketbooks.
And you understand that, and all the people around this table understand that. But as a political matter, to convince people who don't pay that much attention to the airport that you, in essence, have $1 billion here for, and you don't have it for other things, that's a tough hurdle to get over.
Quickly, I think what people should pay real close attention to, this is so unpopular that the aviation department is hiring a private public relations firm to start to spin this. Now, the city and the water department spent more than $350,000 on public relations. I wonder how much the aviation department will spend, and that will be city taxpayer dollars. And I think that should be one of the disturbing aspects going forward.
Why is Kansas Governor Sam Brownback on a campaign to preserve what some see as an unpopular tax? This week, Governor Brownback goes on a tour of university campuses, trying to prevent them from losing millions of dollars in cuts from the state legislature. Lawmakers are refusing to renew a 1% state sales tax imposed during the administration of Governor Brownback's predecessor, Democrat Mark Parkinson. But Brownback says if the tax is not renewed, it would mean a 4% cut to universities, and that would be what he calls a momentum killer for the state. But isn't it strange to see Brownback in the position of lobbying for what some say is more government spending and advocating for more taxation, Steve Kraske?
You know, Nick, it is very, very strange to see this going on. I think it's a continuing sign of just how desperate this governor is to retain this tax, because he knows, and so many lawmakers in Topeka know, you remove this 0.6 of a cent sales tax to existing state revenue, and you've got problems up and down your budget, even more remarkable than you have right now in the wake of the big tax cuts that passed last year. This is a very strange sight, and the prognosis right now, Nick, is that the State House of Representatives is not going to allow this sales tax to go through. The budget will have to be cut in the way that Brownback fears. And this is Republicans over in Topeka sort of building their own nest here, Nick.
So what happens then if this sales tax is not renewed in the state of Kansas then?
Well, it depends on what other changes are made to tax law in the state of Kansas. There is some suggestion that you could trade keeping the sales tax for other reductions going forward, but every projection suggests that if you lose that money, the $700 million hole in the state budget grows even more wide and makes it very, very difficult to fund the core functions of government, not just higher ed. Higher ed is always an interesting political issue because not everybody goes to college and not everybody sends their children to college. And so general taxpayer support for higher education is always a bit problematic. So it's interesting to me that Sam Brownback would sort of, push in the chips on that. But he needs the money, as Steve suggests. He's trying to figure out some way to convince lawmakers to keep it.
But the connection seemed to be this week, though, it was all about higher education. If this fails, higher education is going to suffer. We had even the chancellor of the University of Kansas saying, it's going to be medical school students are going to suffer. We're going to have fewer doctors in the state of Kansas, new medical students. And even the KU Cancer Center could lose its National Cancer Institute designation.
I doubt that. I don't think that'll happen. But clearly, this is a sign of just how desperate, how eager this governor is to maintain this tax, to be building this campaign at this point in the legislative session.
But imagine if Brownback loses and he doesn't get his way on this tax, he still wins. Because politically, he can go on the campaign trail and say, I fought for higher education. Right. And it was the State House that blocked that, not me. I fought for your kids getting a better education and lost.
Eric.
And the highest profile aspect of Kansas is KU, K-State football and basketball. So the picture could be, hey, we're going to lose these programs, even though these programs are making millions of dollars with NCAA tournaments. So that's the Achilles heel to most people because that's the highest identifiable.
Let me just say this very quickly because Eric's right. We're seeing this in Kansas. We see a little bit of it in Missouri. I did a story on the sequester, the federal sequester this week. Everyone loves cutting spending until it actually impacts something. Yes. Then suddenly I can't fly, I can't go to college, I'm going to lose my accreditation as a cancer center. They can't measure flood stages on the Missouri River. We're not going to you know, if every time something is cut, you hear the kind of reaction that we've heard in the past week, we're never going to cut spending in this country. And I think to some degree, politicians are beginning to understand that. We'll see.
Up next on Week in Review, why the Jackson County Sheriff's Office now says it's extending its administrative office hours into the evenings just to keep up with the number of people coming in seeking a concealed weapons permit. Jackson County Sheriff Mike Sharp says concealed firearms permits are already up 53% on last year. In Clay County, they're up 50%. Why?
The federales are coming for my guns. You know, a lot of people feel the Obama administration and gun control advocates are going to pass federal laws and they're going to lose the ability to own a gun. They're going to lose the ability to carry a concealed weapon. And in a lot of the articles and the stories that were printed this week, you saw people saying just that very thing. My concern and my question is, how much is this going to cost taxpayers to extend these hours for a select few people that want to get concealed carry permits? And no one's asking that question, and I haven't seen a simple explanation to how much will this cost.
Well, that's a question for the investigative unit of KCTV5.
See that coming in May on KCTV5, perhaps.
Because it's also a week that sees the Missouri House pass legislation attempting to make criminals out of U.S. authorities who enforce federal firearms laws in Missouri. Democrats noted Wednesday that the legislation likely violates the U.S. Constitution, which gives supremacy to federal laws over state laws. The bill makes it a felony punishable by up to 4 years in prison for federal agents to try and enforce any federal laws or regulations relating to firearms and ammunition owned by Missouri residents. Now, if they know it likely violates the Constitution and will be struck down, why did they spend so much time doing this, Steve?
Because they are playing to their base, Nick. They're trying to make their fellow Republican voters who put them into office happy and to recognize why, in fact, they did cast their votes for them to get there down the road. This is playing to the base, Nick, and trying to make voters, their own voters, happy.
Okay. While they found time to devote to that issue, they found no time to expand Medicaid in Missouri. Republican senators made it clear this week there will be no Medicaid expansion in Missouri this session. The Republican-led Senate voted down a Democratic attempt to insert $890 million of federal funds into Missouri's budget to expand Medicaid eligibility to an estimated 260,000 lower-income adults. So is that it for this issue this year?
Yes, it's dead for this session, Nick, barring an incredible eventuality here. But yes, it's dead. And what's amazing about this is the one issue that Governor Jay Nixon, in his 5 years in office, he tried harder, pushed harder, was more aggressive on this one particular issue than anything else during his run. Here you have a popular governor just reelected to a second term, and he couldn't get this thing across the finish line. Now, I talked to him yesterday for a story that I have going this weekend, which you'll find on your doorsteps probably on Sunday morning as well.
It's going to be a great newspaper.
It's going to be a great newspaper, yeah. And he says, hey, prospects for it look better next year as more and more Missourians recognize that billions of dollars are being sent out of Missouri to other states, Missouri taxpayer dollars being used elsewhere to fund this program, but not here at home. Time, he says, is on his side. We'll see if it can pass muster next year.
Eric.
And we have an AP story in the call on that same subject as well.
It's going to be a great newspaper this week, yes?
A great newspaper, as well as the curfews and other things that we've been talking about here.
Yes. Dave.
Steve's right. I think we're still trying to figure out why Jay Nixon pushed so hard on the Medicaid expansion. But, Nick, let's connect that dot with the gun discussion. Much of what state legislators now do is cast symbolic votes that aren't really on the merits but say something. The reason Medicaid failed in Missouri and is failing as other states is not necessarily because all lawmakers object to the specifics. They just don't like Obamacare, period. They don't care whether it's good for their state or not. We don't like Obamacare, and we don't want to do anything that would give Obamacare a chance to sort of grow and establish roots. And that's true on the exchanges, that's true on Medicaid, all provisions of Obamacare. So, I think where Jay Nixon may have miscalculated is some thought that somehow he could rationally convince lawmakers to go along with this using the other money going to other states argument, or that we have poor people who need help argument. Again, I don't think lawmakers, either on guns or on Medicaid or a lot of issues, are casting votes based on the merits. They're casting them because of the message it sends, and that's certainly true on the Medicaid decision in Missouri.
But couldn't it also be, though, as many lawmakers talked about, that yes, you're getting federal money right now, Stacey, that yes, it's free money right now from the federal government, but you know, a few years out, the state is going to have to start paying for some of this.
Right.
Where is that money going to come from?
It's going to come from state taxpayers. We're talking about $890 million in the next year had Missouri expanded Medicaid. But in a number of years, those dollars are going to dwindle and the state's going to be responsible for a bigger part of the tab. The problem is, however, those indigent people, nearly 250,000 people, are still going to get health care. If they walk into a hospital, they have to be covered. And going forward, that's a bigger cost to taxpayers than it is if we expand Medicaid or Medicare in the state of Missouri.
Steve.
You know, lawmakers in Missouri and in Kansas worry about this fact, Nick. They say after 3 years, the state share begins to grow up to 10% after a few years. What Governor Brownback is saying, look at the federal financial picture. Do you really expect, and can you count on the federal government to truly pay that 90%? Or will the state share become 12%, then 15%, then 25% down the road? State Senator Ryan Silvey in Missouri told me this week Medicaid for the existing program, it grows by $200 million a year. And he says we can't afford what we've got now. We can't fully fund the state public school formula. How are we going to be able to finance this program going forward if, in fact, we buy into this new program?
Very briefly, one of the reasons the Missouri and Kansas state share is so large in existing Medicaid is because the state pays about 40% of the cost of Medicaid for the existing program. The idea in the expanded Medicaid is to limit that to just 10%. So the argument you hear from the other side is it won't cost you nearly as much as the current Medicaid program at the state level.
Next on Week in Review, new Wyandotte County Mayor Mark Holland was finally sworn into office this week. But the only commissioner not in attendance at his swearing-in ceremony at the standing room only affair in the commission chambers, Ann Murguia, the person Holland defeated for the job earlier this month. A message on Murguia's cell phone said she was traveling and would return today, according to the Kansas City Star. Really, Steve? She would have set aside that day, wouldn't she, when she was running for office as the day that they were going to be sworn in?
That's right, Nick. And I can tell you I was at the inauguration ceremonies last night, and the buzz in the room was all about that one empty chair up on the platform there. 10 commissioners, 10 seats for commissioners, 9 were there. The one missing was Ann Murguia. And you can bet everyone was saying that, Nick, that Ann Murguia would have been there if she had won this election. As it was, she doesn't return from out of country until today, one day after the big ceremony.
Now, this, because she's still going to be on the commission, she has to work with Mark Holland. What does this say about how they're going to work together in the next 4 years on the Wyandotte County unified government?
Well, I spoke to her election night, and she insisted repeatedly, we'll get along fine, water under the bridge, we have to work together. But boy, what a message she sent yesterday, Nick. You know, in 2001, Al Gore, who had lost a bitter presidential election with George Bush, he was on the podium when George Bush was sworn in. I mean, that's a tradition in American politics that Ann Murguia really sort of thumbed her nose at. It's not a good thing.
If you're trying to get a new driver's license in Missouri, you might have a hard time. As punishment for the Department of Revenue's decision to share private concealed weapon permit information to federal authorities, a controversy we discussed last week on the program, the Missouri Senate this week voted to defund the entire Missouri Driver's License Bureau budget. That's right, eliminate all full-time employee positions in the Driver's License Division. Was this a strictly attention-grabbing move, Stacey Cameron?
Yeah, it was a shot across the bow for the administration and the executive branch to start playing ball with the State House and turn over information it wants in terms of how did those concealed weapon permits get to the Social Security Administration. Give us what we want in terms of information, or you're going to lose your money, you're going to lose your jobs.
So what does this mean? I mean, if you're trying to get a driver's license in Missouri, does that mean you're going to now have a difficult time getting one?
It hasn't become law yet, so I mean, and it won't. I mean, one of the things that's true when you bluff is you've got to have at least some chance that your bluff is going to turn out to be true, and it didn't turn out to be. It just won't turn out to be. You've got to have a driver's license bureau, and I think even legislators who are on the other side agree with that.
It's another one of those things we just talked about, the State House passing some law, threatening to pass a law that's merely ceremonious. and it's playing to the base. So at this point, we're, you know, Republicans in the Missouri State House saying, you know, we're going to protect your privacy rights. If not, the people who are, you know, infringing your rights, we're going to pull their money.
You know, the issue is real. The issue of that information is real, and we shouldn't discount that, but the remedy is obviously meant for show.
Politics in Jefferson City?
Yeah,
no.
amazing.
Say it's not
like
so.
Politics in Wyandotte County. But yeah, they have to do something, and it's just a bluff move to at least create a conversation about what's going on with it. But people have to have driver's license, and they have to open their offices, and they have to fund those people, because lawmakers need driver's license too.
Now, there was some concern about whether they actually even got to the right target here, that whether they had even put the right line in the budget, and whether they'd actually defunded accidentally the licensing of boats and RVs, and it wasn't the Driver's License Bureau. So even in trying to make a punishment, they'd got the wrong division.
Yeah, it will all be sorted out in the end, Nick. As they move to adjournment, which is about 3 weeks away now, they'll figure it out.
Alrighty. That is it for this week's Kansas City Week in Review. Our thanks to our news reviewers from The Call, Eric Wesson, and from The Star, Dave Helling. The Star's Steve Kraske, who can also be heard weekday mornings at 11 on Up to Date on KCUR-FM. And digging for answers and digging into his pocket on his cell phone from the investigative unit at KCTV5, Stacey Cameron. I'm Nick Haynes from all of us here at KCPT. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us. Goodbye.